So now you'll be working on a small group activity or a 15-minute activity in groups of 4 that you're in, almost, 4 or 3. And you have to come up with 8 advantages and 8 disadvantages of cloud computing. Then we're going to discuss these, and then after that start with the Amazon Cloud activity. Okay? So you have 15 minutes. You can start. If you have questions, please, you can ask us. So let's see what you guys came up with. Let's start. Let's give the groups names.
Group awesome.
Group awesome. Okay, what's your... Give me an advantage.
It is very cost efficient.
Cost efficient. Next group. Group what?
Team Francis.
What would
Team Francis. Okay. Team Francis.
Chinese.
Advantage.
An advantage is that it takes up less space. You only need one space.
Less space. Okay. Group. Third group. Group what? Come on, be quick.
Team Apple.
Team Apple. Okay.
So there's less maintenance.
Less maintenance. So maintenance is done by someone else. You don't have to deal with it. Your team? Team?
Team 4-star.
Team name?
Team 4-star. Team 4-star.
Team Red.
Team Red. Okay. Team Red. Give me an advantage.
Easy access from any device.
Access from any device. Easy access from any device. Last group?
Team 4-star.
Team 4-star?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there no 5 there?
It's only 4.
It's only 4.
All right. So one advantage would be it's flexible according to the consumer demand. So like.
Could you raise your voice, please?
Flexible according to the demand.
Okay, flexible according to demand. Okay, now let's start with the disadvantages from there. Team 4-star.
It's too password dependent.
What do you mean?
With cloud computing, like all your accounts are driven by passwords in that regard.
It doesn't have to be a password. You can have different ways of authentication. You can have passphrases, you can have keys.
So is there no email?
There is, but why is that an issue? You would need to access it somehow, right? So from what perspective is that an issue?
Some people might use the same password for everything.
Sorry?
Some people might use the same password for everything.
So, okay, some people might use the same password for everything. The most common ones are 1 to 6, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and 0, 0, 0, 0. Of course, people doing that should not be using the cloud. Should not be using a computer, if you ask me. But I guess what you're trying to say is you're getting access to your data through some type of password, passphrase, key. And if another person gets that key, then they have almost everything that you have. So it's a bit less secure from that perspective. Yes?
But can you counter-argue that and say that's the same thing with a local server? You still need some sort of password protection for that too?
Yes, you can. Now, when we reach the security matter, we can see that from both points of view exist. And there are counter-arguments to both points of view. So that's a subtle issue that we're going to discuss in a bit. Next. Team Red.
No, not really a lot of privacy. Most people use public accounts.
Okay.
So they normally have a lot of privacy.
So from a company's perspective, a lot of their information is being hosted by someone else, so there's not a lot of privacy. Your team, remind us? Team Apple.
So you have no direct control over your hardware.
You have no direct control over your hardware. It's true that someone else is maintaining it, but once you want to change the configuration, for example, you don't know where your data is actually residing. If you want to physically change those things, you can't do that. Next. Team Francis.
Yeah, in the short run, it's kind of a bit more expensive you have to get all the infrastructure ready and like change your current system to work with them. Even if in the
For cloud computing.
Yeah.
So it does. So you're saying
In the long run, it'll be better.
it does have a change required from people who are not used to it, but in the long run it will be better. True. And last, yeah.
What else?
Disadvantage.
There's like varying speeds of service.
Varying speeds of service, your service is guaranteed.
Like there.
You can demand whatever you want and it's guaranteed. Anything else?
Other things. Seems
Didn't Google tell you anything else?
Google disadvantages only had one.
Okay. So, is there anything else that you have that on your list? Yeah.
You need Wi-Fi or internet access.
You need internet access in order to access your data. Okay. What else? That's a disadvantage. Yeah.
Say if the server is down,
Yeah.
like, then everyone can't access.
So true. True that you don't have to deal with maintenance issues, but if an issue happens with Amazon, say, and it's hosting services for lots of businesses, all of those will go down. And that actually happened several years ago. That's a lot of lost money. Doesn't happen as often as your own servers die, but just still a possibility. Yeah.
I wanted to ask something. What about the pricing? Like, since you're renting a service, like if you're doing a long run, you're gonna spend more money than purchasing it in the first place, right?
No, actually, because since the demand is varying, on the long run it is cost effective. If the demand is not varying, then you shouldn't go to the cloud in the first place.
It's just my personal experience with Photoshop, because it used to be Photoshop Suite, and then like you're purchasing the license, now they're changing it to Photoshop.
So there are some costs in order to start using those resources on the cloud.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on how that billing happens. That particular product has had major issues, and a lot of people who don't like the big payment that they have to incur for that service. But in a lot of other businesses and a lot of other products, it's actually, the prices have gone down.
Okay.
So it depends on each case. Okay, so these are actually, yeah.
Can we mention, what about workforce? There's
Okay.
some changes there, right?
Workforce, and do you mean losing jobs?
Yeah, like companies producing hardware, for example, there must be some sort of change if people are.
There is. There are
changing
lots
to
of
cloud.
startups that are growing, specifically providing cloud computing services. So those companies are hiring, but there are less IT people within businesses. So they are outsourcing that to another company. They get their cloud resources and they don't have that big of a group. But it's over time, what usually happens is with improvement of technology, more specific people in those technologies get jobs, and there is a loss of jobs for the people who don't know those technologies. And it's a shift, it's an ongoing process. And that cloud computing also does cause that in one way or another. Okay, so these are actually from Wikipedia. So if you went there, you would have been faster. You'd have gotten a lot of more things. So agility, we mentioned this. So you're agile, you can change based on what you need. This is a bit deeper, so API accessibility. So you can, if you know a bit of programming, you can do a lot more at a lower scale with things that are simplified for you. So there are, for example, for app development, you have the tools on which you can build other services without knowing much, without knowing every single thing beneath. This is an interesting aspect. This is an interesting aspect from the purposes of like businesses, from the purposes of public companies also, or public like ministries and things like that. There's a shift from the way you spend money from being a capital cost, so a matter of you buy this much equipment, you put in this much infrastructure into operational expenses. So it becomes an ongoing expense rather than huge bulk expense at the beginning. So from a small company perspective, you don't need much of this anymore. It's more based on if I do have that demand, then I will be using the resources. I'll get the money from that and pay for the operational expenses. Okay? So this is a major change. Device and location independence. Your device, your servers could be anywhere. You don't need to know. It could be in the North Pole, as long as the delay is small enough, you're not feeling it, you're not using it for a particular application, it works. Virtualization, as we mentioned before, you can virtualize over storage, processing power, even networking. So your storage requirements could be divided onto different devices. So what you're storing could be on different hard drives in different countries even for the same thing. So multi-tenancy. So this is, so you have a part of the software that is running on the server, and then you can access it with a thin client using your own software. So this reduces a lot of the problems that you might have, and it helps centralization, utilization, and efficiency. As we said, from the server's point of view, the person who's providing those resources, because now it has thousands of people requesting resources, it can optimize how it allocates and meets all of those demands. Okay, so some other advantages. So reliability, redundancy, and things like that are handled from the server side. Scalability and elasticity. So if you need more, you get more. If you need less, you get less. Performance monitoring, you know how your resources are being used. Security improved with centralized data. So in one aspect, this is an advantage. So your data is in one place. If it's well controlled, the entrance to that information is limited, then it's in one place, it's secure. So maintenance is made easier. You're not having to deal with those issues, as Bill Gates was also mentioning in that video. Now, let's jump to disadvantages. Privacy. So from a bank's perspective, for example, the secure information about your clients, it's better not to put it on a public cloud, for example, okay? Because if someone goes and gets that data, it's a lot of private data that you don't want people to access. Now, there are other issues with compliance. So compliance with regulations, when you have community deployment or hybrid deployment, there are lots of rules and regulations about, let's say, privacy, about what you're allowed to do where, it's more common these days to have issues with taxation. So you're a company here, you're running your business using clouds in Ireland. That's a tax haven compared to Canada or the US. Where is your actual business happening? Is it here? Is it there? It's not clear. So a lot of people are using part of that from a sales point of view in order to reduce their taxes. That's one issue. So legal issues. So trademark infringement, sharing of proprietary data. If that data is on a public cloud, what if it gets accessed, right? What if that proprietary data includes patents of technologies that you have, and you're sharing it with Amazon, and Amazon, an employee notices that, we actually don't have that. We can improve our own technology with that, and they can infringe on your patent. You never know, right? So things like that become a bit more problematic. There's, as we know, for all types of software, there's things that you buy and things that are open source. Open source means the source code, the programming code is open to the public, so it's free. That means people can buy it, can use it, and host, basically provide a cloud computing service using that code. Now, when you have the source code for something, that gives you an issue. Good programmers could find out the vulnerabilities in the code, and then they can use it for hacking. Okay? So you can find the vulnerabilities there, and then who's responsible? That becomes the legal loophole, because you haven't written the code, someone else has written the code, it's open source, everyone has it, but then you're using it to create a cloud computing environment, and if someone hacks into your data, are you responsible because you're hosting the service? Is the person who wrote the code responsible? That is because of this open source requirement, and that usually doesn't happen with other things. There are interoperability issues. So as we mentioned the APIs before, so those are the things that help you program on top. You have the open versions of those. One of them is, let's say, the Google one for the Android one. So there might be issues with interoperability between those. OK, so for security, you don't have, this was mentioned, so you don't actually know where the device is. You don't have physical control over where something is. So if a facility gets, I don't know, someone goes into that facility and removes a server, that server might have the data of so many people, like physically remove it. OK, so that's the first thing. And this is a quote. These are all issues related to security. So you can see sensitive data access, bug exploitation, so many different things that come up with cloud computing. And all of these are like being improved and over time, but you still have some loopholes. OK. So sustainability. So from the environment's point of view, cloud computing can act as a method of green computing. But again, you end up with other issues, such as the location of the servers. So if you're putting the server in the North Pole and spending less energy to cool it down, that's good in terms of the environment. However, then you come up with other issues where there's so much delay to reach that data, so you don't do it there. You put it in, I don't know, downtown Manhattan, because all the financial companies want to use it for trading, financial trading. So if you put it there, then you go back to the issue of, I'm not spending far less energy. Whoever is hosting that is still spending a lot of money for cooling. So it still does pose issues. So the location does really matter, and from an environmental perspective, because if you're not powering up that device, someone else is. And you could have viruses and Trojans, which are kind of similar, using the cloud services. So this was in 2009. There was a banking Trojan using Amazon service. So someone was able to take a big chunk of the Amazon resources and use it for malicious purposes. OK? OK, so what we're going to do now, so are there any other questions about the advantages, disadvantages? Do you know now what cloud computing is, kind of? OK, so you're going to experiment with cloud computing now. We're going to try to help you understand these concepts better. Forget about the reading part. We've explained all of these. So this is an activity on the Amazon cloud. It's called Amazon EC2. So let's see. I'm gonna. I'll give you. I'll give you the information that you can use. I'll give you ECF accounts. Okay, you're gonna do this individually, and we're gonna play a video that gives you the directions to set up your web server. There is in the video like there is sound. We don't want to turn this on. We don't want to turn this on because it's loud. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play it out here because these speakers are good so that you could hear it. Later on, what you're going to do is on your own machine, you can see the video on YouTube. But if you don't have any earphones with you, you won't hear the sound, but you don't need it. Okay? But what you would need to do is go back and forth several times because the video is quick. Okay? So once you basically start with that, there are directions of what you're going to do, and we're going to help you with any of the issues that you have. Okay? So it's just a couple of slides here. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be creating you're going to be getting resources from the Amazon cloud, putting your own web server on it, and creating your own web page. And then you can design it and do whatever you want with it, depending on how far you can go. Okay? So let me just play this video once. If you have some general questions, I can answer them, and then I'll give you time to start on the activity. I'll give you your ECF accounts right after I'm done with the video. Okay?
Hey, what's up, YouTubers? Today I'm going to show you how to get started with Amazon EC2, and that's Elastic Cloud Compute. And you can use it to run a web server, and this will be the example I show. So what we can do is we can launch an instance, which would create our web server. But there's a few things we might want to have first, which would be the security group, an Elastic IP, and I believe that would be it. But I'll do it the easy way. So if I were to launch instance, I'm just going to do a basic 32-bit here with the star because if you're a new person, you can get free hosting and all that stuff for a year. A bunch of goodies attached to it. And this is loading a long time. I'm not sure why. There it goes. Number of instances, we just want one. Availability zone, to me, doesn't really matter. And if you click the instance type, you see free tier eligible. And that's good enough to learn and practice. And we just want to launch the instance so that it's pay as we go. Next. And all this stuff is advanced instance options, so we can skip this, and we can skip this also because I'm not smart enough to figure that out. And when you get here, the key pair is so that you can log into your server through the terminal. And what I would do is create a new pair, and I'll just call this test. Then we can create and download. And we get this PEM file. And with this PEM file, we'll come back to that. And now for the firewall, we're going to create a new security group so that we can access our site through the web and everything, because this is for a web server. So for this, I'll just call this web. The description will be web. And for the rules, what we really want are all TCP, UDP, and ICMP. And some of those have to do with pinging, stuff like that. I'm going to throw on SSH, SMTP for outgoing email, DNS, which I'm not sure why. I don't totally understand all this. HTTP, extremely important since it's going to be a web server.
I do.
POP3 is incoming email. IMAP is email on the server. What else do we got? HTTPS if we were to do secure HTTP pages. And I'll just add MySQL at the end and continue. And this all looks good, so we can launch that. Let me close this. And close. And I can go over to instances. I was just playing with one right here. And we wait for it to load. Now a couple of things we'll need. One is the PuTTY key generator. and you can just look this up on Google as PuTTY KeyGen. And what we have to do is create a key in a friendly format. I'll do a import key, and what was that called? Dream.pe now? No, it was test.pe. Okay. And here's our key, which we're going to save, and I'll just test in the comments. So I'll go ahead and save without a passphrase. If you put a passphrase in here, if someone were to have your key, they'd have to enter a password as well. I'm going to leave that empty for now. I'll just call this test. So on my desktop, I now have a file called test.ppk. And if we go here, we can go down a little ways, and right here is our address, which we can connect through SSH. Now, if we went to that address, it's not going to work. And to make this a little prettier, what we probably want to do is get an elastic IP and assign it to this. So down here under elastic IPs, allocate new address to EC2. And we need to right click and associate this with an instance. And yes, associate. So now this IP address will be able to access this URL here. And I'm going to go ahead and open PuTTY right here and type in that address, 107.20.232.220. And by default, it's port 22 for SSH. Next, we need to pop in our key. And down here under SSH auth, we pop our private key in here under desktop.
This is to prove our identity. Okay.
And back up to session. You could save this if you want. I'm just going to show it for an example and open. Yes, accept the key. And we log in as EC2-user. And there it is, we're in. So I'm going to go sudo su, and now I'm the root. And I'm going to do yum install httpd, which is Apache. And I guess that's all I'll do. Okay, that's all installed. And now to start it, I'll say what? Service httpd start. And that is now live. And I should have copied this thing here. I don't know if I can copy that. Oops. No. So I'll just type it up here. 107.20.232.220. Okay. And in a new tab, let's open it. And here we have our Apache server on Amazon EC2. And you can do everything you want in your thingy here, like you would in any other SSH server. So thanks for watching, and I hope this was useful. Bye.